Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional illustrator, graphic designer, and tarot deck enthusiast. And Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. No countdown today. If you've been watching my last few live streams, you may have noticed there is no countdown. We are changing a few things up to see if it'll be easier for me to just jump right into it. In the meantime, we are going to get into the Three of Cups. We're going to continue with the Three of Cups as we have been working on for the last few weeks. Now, this live stream, I will be, as always, talking through. Oh, I'll be talking through the process of creating the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. If you like something a little more silent, if you like just to watch me work and listen to good music while I work, check out or look out for one of my streams through the middle of the week. I've been trying to test something out where I work and just listen to music, and hopefully you guys work along with me. So if that's more your speed, more your vibe, I humbly invite you to join me then. Usually it'll be a Wednesday or a Thursday. I haven't quite landed on the schedule yet, but we'll see. Hey PL, so happy to hear you. So happy to hear you. So happy to have you. I hope that the audio is sounding okay today. No issues on my end in that regard. So I'm glad to have you. Hopefully you can hear me real good. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, over the past couple of weeks, during those live streams where I'm just sort of working and getting caught up on things, I have done quite a bit of work on this card, and that's because we've had a couple technical difficulties where I wasn't able to stream last Sunday. So what I did instead was this past Thursday, I worked on completing I was going to say trampoline, completing the tambourine for my one of my characters. I also worked on the mother figure, and we're just going to pick back up with her. So what I've done, and just to get you guys caught up on both, I finished the skin and costume for the sister character. Now I kind of move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. I finished the skin and costume for the sister character, including her head wrap and the tambourine. Now you may notice in the tambourine it looks a little different because there is some pink shining through, and we'll get to that in a little while. Once we get to our main character, we'll sort of look at why that's there. I like to do that because what I plan to do is have our main central character sort of glow in a hot pink tone, right? And so one of the ways to sort of sell it without just doing like a simple overlay is to incorporate some of the colors within the objects that I want the light to affect. This will also come into play a little bit later. We'll add more details as I get to my main character and her glow. She will sort of, or her light will bounce off of everyone else in the scene. So we'll get there. That is something I'll probably do as a finishing touch. But where I left off was with the mother character. Again, I did her skin. Now turn off the sketch just so you guys can see a little bit better what I've done. Did her skin, hair, and head wrap. And so what we're going to do is finish up her skin and get into her costume. I kind of want to actually go ahead and work on the main character. So I may skip the mother's costume. I'm not real sure yet. We'll see. Maybe I'll save that for a midweek live stream where I just kind of work and you guys work along with me. So we'll kind of see how that goes. So yeah, right now I am taking into consideration again that my main character, the little girl in the center, is my light source, and I want the mother figure to appear somewhat in front of her. So in doing so, that means that the part of her body that we see isn't necessarily going to be lit, right? So that part of her body is going to be in shadow. So we're going to color her forearm here. All of this will be mostly in shadow. All of her from, I would say, let's see. This is how I'll do it. Find my layer. And I'm going to go up to the topmost layer. And then I'll show you guys a little bit about what I mean. So, because I want this character to appear somewhat in front of our main character here, all of this, including the majority of her arm, so we'll say something like this, all of this area will be in shadow, right? All of this area will be in shadow because if our character is standing sort of in front of the light source is really going to only hit the edge, right? It might hit this area here. Of course, we have her face somewhat lit here. And so that's just something I want to kind of keep in mind. Okay, great. Thank you so much, PL. I just saw that you said the audio is good. I really appreciate that. So So the light will sort of hit the front of her area. So even though she's currently flat and she has very little form except in her face and her left arm here, we want to think about her as a two-dimensional, or not two-dimensional, as a three-dimensional object. Think in terms of like a box. So if we were looking at a box, right? I'm drawing out this box has sides. And depending on where this light hits, right? If the light hits here, this area is going to be in shadow. This area may be partially in light depending on whether or not the light source is above or in front of. Over in this area, depending on where that light source is, different parts of the box are going to be lit, right? All right, so that's sort of the principle that we're taking into consideration here. We're remembering that our little girl character is going to be the sun of this scene. She is the light source. She is the light bulb. She is the candle. She is the thing illuminating light. And we want to light our figures accordingly. Now, doing so will again help us sort of position the other character. So if we looked at our grandmother character, she's behind her. So she's going to be a little more lit. And again, we'll add some of the pink bounce light to these characters a little bit later. I wanted my sister to sort of appear behind her. So when I get to the point where I'm adding extra details, most of her will soak up some of that pink color. And I've already sort of started to lay in the foundation for that. But again, with our mother, hey, Montreal, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I usually have some audio issues. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad to hear that it's doing all right. I'm glad to see you. All right, so yeah, so the front of her is going to be lit, so we want to keep that in mind as we color. All right, so let's get into it before I overtalk it, which I tend to do. And we're just going to again flesh out the rest of her skin. I probably will save her feet for last, as I've done with the grandmother and her sister, because I have an idea of what I want to do with that. And then we'll just work on the rest. All right. All right. So I hope you guys have had an opportunity to see some of the videos that I put out recently. I did a art school video recently because I've seen a lot of people, especially younger artists, sort of wonder whether or not art school was something that they should invest in, which is a very valid concern. I am personally someone who did not finish art school, but I left with quite a bit of education under my belt. So even as a dropout, I had sort of left at a time where I felt like I was sort of ready to enter the workforce. I think that art school can be wildly beneficial because you're getting sort of an official structured training, right? A lot of times we can learn things on our own. There's lots of free resources out there, especially now because the students nowadays have access to so much more than what we had access to or what I had access to coming up going to school between 2004 and 2008. Wrong thing. So it is a little bit easier. You have sort of independent study classes. You have people like Aaron Blaze that teach. You have schoolism. You have different organizations and things like that. So it is possible to get an art career and art education outside of a university setting. However it comes, I do believe that some sort of training and some sort of education is important because there's always going to be something that you didn't know, right? And having it in an organized sort of way makes things a whole lot easier. So in my circumstance, I had left school with plenty of art education. I was great. I felt like I was ready to enter the workforce as a graphic designer, but as a business owner, as someone who had started a business while I was in college, but switched to a creative business many years later, I wish I had known to take business classes, right? You just don't know what you don't know. So for all of my younger artists, even if you're not younger, even if you're sort of switching careers as an older person, because I feel like it's never too late to learn anything, I think it is important to sort of find something that has structure that'll kind of teach you those basics, all of the foundations, so that you're not sort of unaware of certain things because you didn't know to look for them, right? So as I sort of moved into wanting to improve my business, I had joined like the Graphic Artists Guild, which I no longer am a Southern rep for, but I wholeheartedly support sort of the information, sort of their goals, their mission, and all of that that they have for people who are becoming artists or people who are running small businesses and are creative entrepreneurs and all of that. But if you don't know that the Graphic Artists Guild doesn't exist, that if you don't know that they do exist, it can be kind of difficult to sort of find information. You just, are playing catch up a lot of the times. So I do believe that some sort of education, no matter where it comes from, whether that is in college, whether you are studying on your own, I think it's very, very important. I think as an artist, it is something that'll elevate your skills and elevate your game. And more importantly, it's really important to not be afraid to make mistakes, not be afraid to sort of, twiddle your thumbs and experiment and do different things like that, because all of that will sort of shape how you create and how you present what you create to the world. So if you have not had an opportunity to check that video out, please do. The audio is a little wonky, but life happens. So long as the right person hears the message and gets the message, that's all that matters to me. So I hope that you all had an opportunity. If not, that will be linked. I'll try to link that in the description a little bit later so that you can see, get an idea of sort of my journey and my thoughts on a formal art education. I do not believe that it is necessary to have a formal art education to be successful. I think that most people, and I watch a lot of sort of millionaire videos and things like that, videos of people who are in a place that I would love to be one day. Most of them didn't even go to college, right? Most of them did not have a formal education in any respect, but they did have sort of the will to take a chance on themselves, right? They took a chance on themselves, and a lot of them failed a lot faster. So a lot of times we sort of get tangled up in, especially the older you get, the scarier it is to make a mistake, right? Because we have children, we have households, we have families and things like that to take care of, and the stakes are a lot higher the older that you get. However, one of the things that I hear sort of across the board is learning to fail faster. And what that means is, making mistakes. And if it's something that you want to keep doing, let's say, for instance, you are becoming an artist, and maybe you're becoming an artist and you don't really know exactly where you want to go, right? So you're trying all of these different avenues, all of these different projects and things, just to sort of see where you fit into the art world. It is better to try as much as you can, fail at some of those things, and then use that failure as a basis to sort of move forward and to get better and learn a different way of moving than not trying at all, right? Sometimes, or not just not trying, but giving up before you've had an opportunity to sort of reach a certain level, right? So that is something that I highly encourage doing as you study, no matter what it is you're doing, whether or not you are an artist, whether you are a writer, whether you are, starting up a new business. The sooner you learn to embrace failure, the sooner you fail at a lot of things, the quicker it'll be for you to continue to make adjustments and to make things work in your favor. So yeah, I certainly am happy to have shared that information with whoever might find it useful. So again, if you have not had an opportunity to see that video, I highly encourage it. There's also another video on this channel that has a lot to do with procrastination and how sometimes we use fear, or we allow fear to stifle our growth, right? That is very important as well, to sort of move or figure out why it is you procrastinate. If you are someone who does procrastinate, figure out why that is that you do it. If it's a fear-based thing, then work on why you're afraid, what it is you're afraid of, and then just sort of move through the fear. Sometimes the easiest way to get past a thing, or especially when it comes to fear, is to do the thing that you're afraid to do. Great example of this was this live stream. So I started this live stream June of 2024. I had been wanting to do this live stream a couple months prior to June, right? The idea sort of came to mind well before June, but because I was afraid to sort of be seen, I was afraid to be on camera. More importantly, I was afraid to make mistakes on camera. I sort of put it off and made excuses, and oh well, I'll do it next week. But I was really procrastinating because I was afraid of so many things that I was just sort of making up in my mind, and a lot of which did not exist, and a lot of which didn't even happen, right? So being afraid of being, again, making mistakes and being judged for those mistakes and all of those things, right? But once you start to sort of embrace that everyone makes mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. The faster and quicker you get past that hurdle, the freer you'll feel, and the more fun you'll have in your life and in your experiences. The sooner you get to that conclusion, the better off you'll be. So I just did it. I was wholly terrified. If you go to the live panel of this channel, you'll see the very first one, which I believe was at the end of June. Was at the end of June of last year, 2024. I was so nervous. Here we are, many months later, almost a year later, and we've been streaming pretty consistently every Sunday. So, and I enjoy it. It's my favorite part of the week. It is something that I absolutely look forward to. It is something that I love seeing and having you guys join in with. And so I hope to continue to do these. And now we've added the second stream. So definitely got over that fear pretty quickly. But that is the easiest, I feel, the easiest way to sort of get over being afraid of doing something is just to do it afraid, right? Another great example, 2023, I was at How Design Live on behalf of the Graphic Artists Guild, where I was able to interview, do sort of like the street style man on the street interviews. I've been interviewed before, but approaching people that I don't know to interview and ask like questions to complete strangers was a very new, very scary experience for me. And so I was there. They had sponsored me to or sponsored my trip to How Design Live, which was a wonderful experience in and of itself. But baby, the that first interview, I was absolutely terrified. I was stuttering. Excuse me. Do you mind, doing this whole thing? This is who I am. I'm from the Graphic Artists Guild, and I was wondering if you interview for it. And this, that, and the third. The very first one, ooh, it was rough. Not only was it rough, but the audio ended up not recording. So even though I had ended up having a great interview experience with that very first, I think it was two people. It was a CEO of a paper company, and I think his right hand man, right? So I was able to talk to them and ask them questions and all the things. And I went back to look at the footage, and the doggone audio didn't record. So I said, well, that's okay. From that point on, I actually really enjoyed doing those. I think if it didn't have such a bad rep, like if you didn't see so much sort of in consideration. Hey, Draw Sketchbook, so happy to see you. If there wasn't so much of that in the realm of man on the street types of interviews, I would love to do more of those, right? But there's always hesitancy when it comes to that. So the point is, I say all that to say that if you are afraid to do something, sometimes you just have to do it afraid, just to sort of get over that hurdle. You'll never know if it's something that you'll actually enjoy doing. Again, I enjoyed doing the interviews. I absolutely enjoyed doing the man on the street interview, the not the man on the street, the live streams. I love doing the live streams. Those were a whole lot of fun. And yeah, so you just have to sort of bet on yourself, take a chance on yourself. And again, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because sometimes our egos get in the way and we make a mistake because we see everyone, or we see other people online in this big old landscape of people who are doing things and putting themselves out there. And we're seeing that people are getting successful, but maybe we don't reach the same sort of quality, right? Or we don't sort of reach the same level of success, and we can beat ourselves up if we make mistakes, right? But we don't see all of the work that these people put in, right? We don't see that the breakdowns. We don't see half of the stuff that people go through in order to sort of get to wherever they are in their life and in their success. So you just have to keep going. If it's something that you want to do, make those mistakes, and just lean into them. lean into those mistakes. You guys will see me on this live stream make all kinds of happy accidents, and I've been a professional artist since 2008, where I got my first design job. I've been working at this for a really long time, right? I don't consider myself a master artist. If anything, I consider myself forever a student. I'm always looking to learn something new. And I'm okay to make mistakes. As a matter of fact, most of the art that I make, I would say, are a series of happy accidents. And you guys will hear me say that all the time. A lot of things happen just sort of as a result of trying something and liking how it looks, right? Not necessarily having an idea of where to go, but not necessarily knowing exactly how to go sometimes. And it works out, right? So you sort of have to do that on your own journey. All right, so what I've done so far is I have sort of did her hand. I don't know how I feel about it, but if I zoom out, it might be okay. So I might just very well leave it and not spend too much time trying to make it perfect right now. Same happened with her left hand. It just sort of liked, it was fine. And so it didn't really call for me to do a whole lot of tweaking. Because again, some of this is going to glow, right? So since some of this is going to glow, it's going to change slightly anyway. But right now, I seem to have a pretty good foundation. I do not like how smooth this transition is. So what I will do is sort of do something like this, where it's a little bit harder, right? Where we're mixing harder and softer edges. So I do like that. All right. So from here, what I will probably do is work on her outfit. I do want it to mirror the sister's outfit. So where her flounce has a stripe, I'll probably do something similar with the mother so that they seem to match. But of course, the matriarch of the family has the more ornate, jewelry and all of that going on. I'm hoping, hopefully, hopefully we'll be moving on to a new card soon. But again, I enjoy the process of creating, so I sort of take my time with things, right? All right, so we've got as much skin as I want to deal with right now. I guess we could go work on her feet. We'll do that really quickly here and smooth some things out. So I'm going to take this base color and I'm just going to sort of smooth out her angles. I'm not really sure because of the way that I want to articulate the glow of our main character, and also I want to let me backtrack. Because of the way I want the character to glow, the main character, I think I want some of that glow to also come from the women in this scene, right? So it is as if the main character's glow is sort of reaching these people, but also their dancing and celebration is also energizing this person, right? So the way I want to articulate that is to actually have their feet sort of glow in a hot pink manner. So I'm not really doing a whole lot with toes right now. I'm just sort of smoothing out the color, placing the shadows where I need them to be. And then what I will do, if it works out, I don't know yet if I'm going to do this live or just off live, just to experiment. But if it works out, I'll do something similar to what I did with the tambourine, where she has where I put the pink sort of in the symbols of the tambourine, right? It'll be something like that, but a little more vibrant. So we'll see. So I have not done any of the toes. That's the only part of the skin that I haven't fooled with. But what I will do again is to sort of set up where the lights and darks are, and then we'll go from there. All right. So going to grab my main skin color here, just smoothing things out. Because again, when we set up our flats, I just sort of used the lasso tool just to get an idea of where and what color I wanted things to be. And then from here, I will sort of create distance by shifting the light. For instance, this leg is going to be closer to our light source because I want the little girl to appear, or the mother to appear to be in front of the little girl. So this leg is going to be a lot brighter than this one, right? All right, so what I'll do is come up to her face, and I'm going to grab the lighter tone here, and we're going to sort of set up our light source like this and just paint it in. Again, I'm looking at this or thinking about this like a box, right? So on this side of the box, it's going to be a little bit lighter. We got a little bit of an in-between color here, so I can use it as a transition color. And then maybe she will have just a little bit of shadow on the back end of her leg. But this particular leg is going to it's going to catch a lot more light than this leg. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Again, I'm going to come back around to it and tighten things up once I make a decision about how I want to articulate that light, right? If I want to go with their feet glowing, because I did draw in some sort of ankle bells. So if I want to emphasize sort of the glow of their feet, then we'll tighten things up. But for right now, I just want to sort of differentiate what's in front and what's behind. So this foot, for instance, is going to get a lot more shadow. Still might get a little bit of bounce light along the very, very front edge. But for the most part, I'm going to get a shadow. So I think it's going to auto save. So while it does that, my favorite thing to do is to show you guys what the Cosmic Gateways Tarot looks like. So This is the Cosmic Gateway Tarot. Again, this is a project that I started in 2019. It is a dream project. It is a testament of me sort of betting on myself, right? I was wholly terrified to do this. I was certainly afraid to share these images because it was so very different from what I had been sharing and posting up to that point. Not too different, because every now and again I would sort of let myself out a little bit. But it was something that I had sort of just jumped out and did, right? Took me some years to work up to it. I was very, very afraid to do it, but I've been working on it since then. I do it off and on because I have other clients and projects and things that I do work on. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. Lately, I've had a little more time to dedicate to it. And Sundays, of course, is one of those days that I do that. It's the best thing to do. So if you have a project or something like that that you want to work on, if there's something you want to learn, if there's something that you want to do or change or anything like that in your life, you sort of have to set aside time to work on that thing. Even if it's 30 minutes a day, even if it's 30 minutes once a week, even if it's a whole day once a week or once a month, or however long you have to give it, right? You have to sort of set aside time to do that. That is part of being disciplined. It's difficult sometimes because as you're working on something like this, you're sort of taking a chance on it. From my experience, because I've been doing it for so very long, sometimes I sort of have moments where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be worth it, right? But then I sort of have to remind myself of what my idea of success is, because success is not going to look the same for each individual person. So if you're trying to learn something, if you're trying to do something new, if you have a goal in mind, you have to sort of dictate to yourself or sort of figure out for yourself what success looks like, right? So right in front of me behind the camera, there is a success statement and it has all of the things that I deem to be things that should happen in my life that will make me successful, right? Sometimes that could be money for people. If they reach a certain economic status, a certain tax bracket, then that's what constitutes success for them. For me, it has a whole lot to do with being able to create the thing that I want to do and make a living from it. I think that is my definition of success. And so you have to sort of figure out what your definition of success is and then set aside time to develop that, right? Super duper important. Again, everybody's idea of success isn't going to be the same, and that's something I sort of learned as I again back going back to dropping out of college. As a college dropout, that was something that I had to come to terms with, because sure, all of my peers were graduating, right? But for me, it made a whole lot more sense to go ahead and jump into the workforce when I did. And I'm glad that I did, because at the time it was like 2008. I had no idea that the economy was up in shambles because I was in school. I found out fairly quickly that was what was going on. So for me, the timing was about, sort of reaching my own goals. And I had to determine what would make me successful, right? And that idea has evolved over the years. It has not always been me doing what I want to do. That sort of came a lot later. That came from, or sort of as a result of working jobs, right? It's sort of being in jobs, not just jobs, but also commissions. That came from working on commissions as well. Because at a certain point in my freelance career and my creative entrepreneurship career, I would take whatever project came across my desk, right? All the person had to do was ask, right? And have the money to pay for the service. And I was like, cool, I'll do it. Sometimes that worked out, sometimes it didn't. And what I began to do was be very intentional about the types of projects that I took. I started that, I would say, maybe 2021 or two. Became very, very intentional about the types of projects that I took. At that time, I think that was 2021, 2022. I had a really, really awesome opportunity to work with Dreamwise, where I was able to create a couple of t-shirts that they sell. Him and his wife sell. Was also able to work with his wife. Awesome group of people, wonderful group of people. And I was able to do things that were or felt more in alignment to what I ultimately wanted to do, right? And again, those ideas and things will shift, and you'll make mistakes and stuff like that along the way. Just sort of be open to that process. All right. So what I've done is I have colored my legs, and yes, they do look slightly different, but that is going to make a little more sense once I color in my main character. So her left leg, for instance, is lighter than her right leg. And that is to say that this left leg is going to be closer to our light source, right? And this right leg is further away. It's not going to catch as much light. So I colored it more in shadow than I did with my left leg. And again, we'll sort of add some more nuances to make sure that we know that this right leg is closer to the camera as opposed to the left leg, right? All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do before I do that. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on some of her costume. What I'm doing now is I've taken a blending brush and I'm just sort of clearing up some of those stripes and things that my smudge brush created. Typically, I do like a smudge brush for texture. Sometimes it could be a little bit too much texture. And so what I will do is grab my blending tool over to the right hand side of our screen. This one in particular is called Blend Master Flash. This is a blend brush that I got from the artist Eric Anthony. And over to my left, sort of on the other way, on this side of the screen, where you see like the pink square, the yellow square, the purple square, all of those are brushes that I had gotten from that particular artist. He has a gum roll. I highly recommend picking up his brushes. He has, I think, Procreate, Photoshop, and Clip Studio. They work wonders. They are my favorite brushes. I don't use any of the default brushes. I use pretty much exclusively his. Because I like the way they're set up, and his drawing style is pretty similar to mine. So is able to achieve a texture that I am after. And so for me, they work fantastically. All right. Okay. So now keeping in mind again where our light source and things are, we're going to use that same technique to put in our light and shadow in her costume. I'm going to do this on a separate layer because this will allow me to sort of do what I want to do without messing up my base layer. I can combine them, and I probably will combine them a little bit later, but I just want to sort of emphasize where things are catching light, where things are in shadow, and then also emphasize the things that are going to sort of stick out as opposed to the things that are going to sit closer to her chest, right? All right, so I'm going to label this layer mom details, and then we'll combine them later when I need to. And I'm just going to grab this base color, this base blue. Matter of fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a shadow color out of her head wrap because we've already established where light shadow there. I am going to now sort of lay in, wrong thing. What I want to do right now is I'm going to select, there we go. All right. Now what I'm going to do is lay in where these shadows should appear. Again, keeping in mind the idea that most of this side of her body is going to be in shadow, right? There'll be levels to the shadow, so it won't be all the same color. But for right now, I just want to lay this in and then go from there. And if I do this correctly, it should push that lighter leg back, right? So all of this is going to be in shadow. And this is also going to help sell the idea that we're creating a form, right? So right now she's extremely flat. All the colors are flat. Even the shadow for the moment is going to be flat. We're going to add some deeper details to this. This is just our sort of a baseline shadow color. We'll add areas where so for instance, let's do this. So her leg here sticks out, right? And it creates a little bit of a fold or sort of a indentation in her dress or in her skirt. And then we'll add some more nuances and things like that. The back is going to be a little bit darker the further away we get from the light, right? Something like this. And then because we're creating ruffles, some of this will also be in shadow. Something like that, right? And then we'll begin to tighten some of this up. So even here where we sort of have the curve of her chest, we're going to create a little bit of a shadow. And I'm not going to make it quite as dark because we're closer to the light, but we do want to differentiate it from her base color, even if it's just slightly, right? Something like this. And then because her arm moves down, we have a shadow here for her arm. And it may not even reach that far because it's not quite sort of reaching around her stomach, but it does sort of have a lift right here. And again, we will add some of the color back in from our hot pink when we do the glow from our main character. We just hadn't gotten there yet. I probably should have did her first. And that might make a few things make a little more sense. But until then, we'll sort of compensate and redirect things as we go. And I think what I want, let me zoom out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. And again, I'm going to determine how sort of close our little girl's light is to, or sort of the arrangement, right? So do we want our little girl to be in front of the mother? Do we want them to be side by side, or do we want the mother to be somewhat in front of the little girl? I do think I want to go in front of the little girl. So because of that, what I'm going to do is sort of lower this lighter area a little bit, because it's not all going to be in light. Most of this is going to be in shadow, and that'll also affect how we've colored her skin here. Right? So we'll only catch a little bit of the light, something like that. All right. Now back to her clothing layer. And we're just playing, right? I thought when I did the sister's outfit, I did that during the live stream where it was just me working and with the music and everything. It took me a couple of tries to sort of get the flow of the skirt the way that I want, right? And that's going to be what we do here. So I may narrate, I may not, but that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to determine. The easiest thing I did was I sort of determined where the elastic is in her waistband. You might be thinking, why is there elastic in her waistband? That's sort of the thing that I have to take into consideration. If she's wearing a belt, she's probably that belt, not a belt. If she's wearing a skirt, that skirt very likely has a waistband, right? And that waistband is going to create wrinkles and folds. And I'll show you what I mean. All right. So when I was illustrating or sort of painting the sister's waistband, I just sort of put in some lines, right? And wherever I put in the lines and the shadows, that sort of helped me create these areas in her skirt that created folds in the fabric. So we're going to take that same technique. We're going to do it here. We're going to hope for the best. And we're going to go from there. Something like this. And it doesn't have to be super uniform, doesn't have to be super perfect or anything like that. Now, because the mother is also sort of in motion, we have to kind of keep that in mind. But her waist, for the most part, is looking a little something like this. And we can change the intensity of the blue as we get into this lighter areas. All right. So I got that in, right? All right. Now from here, we want to take some of this and turn it into folds and fabric. It looks like we're going to auto save again. Is it slowing down? Come on, friend. There we go. And we also want to take into consideration that this is her thigh, right? So however we sort of manipulate the fabric as we draw this, we want to kind of remember that we're painting in certain parts of the body, right? So if I were to take this and drag it a little bit, it might come out something like this. Something like that. Again, we'll play with it just to sort of see where different folds exist. And this is where references are super handy, right? when I was working on the sister, and let's see if I can load it up. One of the references that I worked on was a skirt that did not look like the sister skirt, right? It didn't look like her skirt at all. It was one of the ritual pieces or ritual images that I was able to find. And I was looking at my viewer. This looks a little bit darker than I need it to be. So we'll clean this up a bit. Not really loving that. So what I'm going to do is backtrack. Let's backtrack. It's the beauty of digital art. We get to go backwards till we get to a point where we're happy. There we go. If I was painting this, I'd have to just paint over it, right? Something like this. But I will show you guys the reference that I used for the sister. It might take a minute to load, but it was very helpful. So having a good reference is makes things a whole lot easier. I've seen some discourse, and I've mentioned this before, where people are like, well, you're not quite an artist if you don't use reference. That is wholly untrue, right? Even the artists that draw without reference do so because they've had enough experience in whatever they're drawing to not need it, right? But at some point, they were studying reference, whether that was from their reality, right? So looking outside and observing things in nature, observing people, observing cloth, they study, right? But they study from actual things. It's sort of how you get to a point where you can draw without it. And so I'm queen reference. I love a good reference. It makes my job so much easier to do. Even when I'm doing my graphic design and I'm sort of looking for inspiration, I love a good reference, right? So I'm team reference. But as soon as it auto saves, I will show you guys a little bit more. But if I'm looking sort of at the lady who's twirling in my box, what I am noticing in this is that some of her folds, again, come from the waistband, and they create these shapes within her fabric that allow us to articulate light and shadow. So that's where references really shine. You don't have to draw exactly what you see, but you can take elements from it to sort of inspire what you do draw. And that's sort of how it came about with the sister's skirt. So come on, auto save. As soon as it does, I'll show you the reference, and I'll probably come back to this one because this one might be quite helpful in what I'm trying to achieve with the mother. But I will show you the one that was incredibly helpful at the time that I was working on the mother search. So while it's auto saving, because that might take a minute, let me again show you guys what the Cosmic Gateways Tarot look like. So again, this is a dream project of mine. So this is something that I think I put a lot of myself in because art is a way of expression, right? And we can always tell something about the artist by what they create, no matter what it is that they're creating, whether it's fan art, whether it is, tarot decks or whatever the case is. You can always tell something from the artist by the thing that they choose to create. So even when my days when I was creating tons and tons of fan art and I wasn't wholly satisfied with what I was creating, a lot of it was still reflective of my own interest, right? Because when I would do comic book conventions, when I would do festivals and things like that, and I was selling almost exclusively fan art, it was stuff that I liked. It wasn't just fan art that was popular or trending or anything like that. It was, most of it was nostalgia from 80s and 90s movies. Most of it was, hey, Black Zetsu, so happy to see you. It was that kind of thing, right? So you can always tell something from an artist by the thing that they create. For me, I wanted to make this purposefully introspective. So for each of the cards, I am thinking about a scenario, something, usually something I've experienced or something that I've seen as I learn and travel and grow and, read about different things. I'd like to infuse that into the cards and into the design. So the first thing I ask myself is, okay, if this card is about celebration, using the Three of Cups as an example, what is something or what is a way that I can articulate the idea of celebration and ceremony that would make sense to this card? So I do that. I put a lot of myself into it. Now, with that though, I have to also take into consideration that this is a product that people are going to use. So I have to find a balance between putting all of Brittany into this, right? But also taking into consideration what people are, the reader, right? The person who's going to be using and reading with this deck. Because I want to keep in mind the new readers. So tarot is one of those things that new readers are finding it each and every day as people are born. They're finding new interests. I personally found it when I was about 16. So I've been involved or sort of interested in this medium for a very long time. When I got to my very first tarot deck and was trying to figure it out and sort it out, Now, at the time, there was nowhere near as many resources available online to help me learn. You thinking we're talking like early 2000s, right? So around that time, wasn't really finding what I was looking for, and I dropped it. I lost interest in it. I wasn't seeing myself in it. All of that was happening, right? So at some point, and I think that probably sparked the interest of sort of creating things, and I may not have known it at the time, but fast forward many years later, and I was looking for tarot decks and wasn't again finding myself in it as an artist. I was like, well, you know what? It might be neat for me to create it, right? But the person that I had in mind was that 16-year-old who had bought her first Rider Waite Smith deck and had no idea what the hell I was looking at. Right? I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what I was looking at. So, as I create this, yes, I am putting a lot of myself into these images, a lot of my own thoughts and opinions about the cards, a lot of my own sort of knowledge about the cards and about the medium. I'm also taking into consideration the person who's picking up this deck is their very first tarot deck. So, when I'm designing cards, I am again thinking about what is the most practical way to illustrate an idea. Now, some of the cards, especially the major arcana cards, which I only have 4 of those left to do, so I finished all the others. But for the major arcana cards, some of the interpretations does get a little bit not necessarily ambiguous, but not as straightforward, right? So that is to encourage the person to sort of tap into their own intuition and to learn. But I do want this to be a great sort of study companion for people who are switching between decks, right? So if they're studying the Rider Waite Smith deck and they're sort of looking at common interpretations, I want whatever I create, even with me and in the artwork, I want it to sort of make sense with what people are going to learn as they study. So I'm always thinking about the person who's picking up this deck as their first deck. Sort of my goal. Now, for the people who have been reading for a while, they're going to find all kinds of fun nods and things like that. And having the opportunity to come on live and to share online and to sort of give insights into the cards, I think is a lot of fun. But as I'm creating this, that is the person that I'm thinking about. I am thinking about 16-year-old Brittany who bought that Rider Waite Smith deck. And I was like, oh no. I was like, I have no idea what this is, right? All right, so now this is the reference that I used for my sister, right? It looks absolutely nothing like the reference, but what I was looking at is how the folds and the shadows sort of took place in these skirts and costumes. That's what I was looking at when I was using this reference to color in the skirt from my sister. When I'm using references, unless I'm studying or unless I am doing something like a portrait for someone, I'm not usually going for exact replicas of things, right? Only sometimes, right? So when I did the tambourine, I sort of used that reference pretty heavily. I still wasn't really going for like the exact same thing, but I was sort of like, okay, well, this is how a tambourine looks. This is how the symbols sort of sit in the middle. I don't know the anatomy of tambourines, but this is sort of how it sits. That's what I was looking for. But in terms of like using references in images such as the Three of Cups, such as like the two of, I think the two of, no, not the two, the Three of Wands, which was the last card that we worked on. The way that I used the reference was for to find elements within a picture, right, that I wanted to use and incorporate into the thing that I was creating. That is how I use references. Sometimes we're copying things right out again, like the tambourine is a very good example, but it's not a standalone tambourine. The tambourine that I created is a part of this larger scene, right? So when I was looking for, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm having a hard time figuring out the folds of the fabric in my sister's skirt. I came over here to my reference panel because before I start anything, before I start drawing, I like to gather up my references. And I started looking at the clothing of the people that I was sort of using as reference, right? Again, I was not after copying these skirts, even though they're very beautiful, very vibrant, very much the color vibe I was going for. What I was looking for was, again, how the fabric folded on these people. So as I do that, as I sort of create the skirt for my mother character and the clothing for my mother character, I'm going to do very much the same thing. I'm going to take a look at some of my reference images. I'm going to see how that fabric moves and how shadows are created and how highlights are created. I'm going to find elements within those reference images that fit the picture that I am creating, and I'm going to use that as a basis for creation. All right. All right. So in this case, this is a great example of her leg, for example, right? So if we're looking at the central figure, and this is, and make it bigger so you guys can see. Actually, I want to be able to show you guys both, right? All right. So if we're looking at this character, right? His right leg is going to be out above his left leg, meaning this leg, the right leg, is closer to our character, and our right and left leg are colored slightly different. And you really see it. You can really see it with this. Now it's very slight differentiation, where in this case, his left leg is lighter in color than his right leg, right? So that's sort of a similar concept of what we're doing with our mother, where her back leg, her left leg is closer to the light source, so it's going to be lighter, whereas her right leg, the one that's closer to the camera, is going to be darker because it's further away from the light source. And anytime you have something that's sort of up against light, so let's say my hand is the light source. Actually, you can see it. So, well, no, not quite. So let's say my hand is the light source, right? This is a window, and my pen is up against this window. If light is coming from this window, you're only going to see this in shadow, right? So you may only see an outline of that light, and that's what we're sort of going for with her frontmost leg. All right. So if I'm looking at references, those are the kinds of details that I want to pay attention to. You can see it again here. I'll show you here. So the he has a leg that's sticking out, right? And he has a leg that's not sticking out. The one that's sticking out is catching much more of the sun and much more of the ambient light, whereas the one that's up under his skirt is sort of stationary, is a lot more in shadow. So those are the kinds of things, as you're pulling references and as you're looking for things to draw into study, that you want to keep in mind, you want to sort of pay attention to. And a lot of that comes with practice, right? You want to just observe how things move and function in the world, and then we put that into our art. All right, so now back to our skirt. I'm also again keeping in mind that, very much like this frontmost character, we're seeing sort of a similar angle, right? He has his mask, or his face is here, right? And we have his left arm holding this drum, and I wish I could draw on this, but the front part of his body, if we guys can see my cursor move, the front part of his body is catching a whole heck of a lot more light than the back part, right? We see our highlight here in the yellow, and then this back part is a little more in shadow. That is sort of the lighting that we're going for, even though this particular character is out in a much more neutrally lit situation, right? So that's something that we want to take into consideration. I also am looking again at how the fabric folds along his leg, because we can kind of see it a little bit, but we also see how the folds and things happen. All right, so I'm either going to use that one, or I might sort of flip through some of the references, but we're going to start here. And then what I'm going to do is find areas where maybe we get a little bit of a fold, right? Now we're going to be ignoring this back leg. Why? Because this back leg isn't going to be touching this front part of this front part of the skirt that we see, right? Because that back leg is a little bit further. So we're going to be ignoring that. We're not going to be using any part of that back leg to shape what we do with our front leg. So actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to engulf that in shadow, so that we sort of tell our minds and tell our eyes that that back leg is not a part of what we're creating, right? But this front leg is. And not only is it, but our skirt is up against this front leg, right? So we can sort of add some shadow and things like that to give us the idea of which leg is in front of which. And we'll actually have a shadow on this part of the skin. So I'm going to do a new layer just in case this is something I don't like. And then if it is, I can just combine them. What we'll do is add a shadow underneath this part of her leg, but not the back. And again, that is to emphasize the fact that that back leg is standing a little bit further away from the skirt. Something like this, right? So we have to sort of add these details and nuances to things that we create, just to sort of create optical illusions. And in doing so, it also sells the idea of whatever it is that we're trying to create. So that's very, very important. All right, so going back to our skirt, I'm going to outline it again. I'm actually going to turn off my sketch, because sometimes they can give us a false read, and then that'll sort of give me an indication of what we're looking like, right? So far we've only laid in some lines. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And what we'll do here is add just a little bit more detail. Now, if you're watching this live or watching the replay, I really, really appreciate you guys for being here, because you could be doing anything, but you're watching me talk 90 miles an hour. and watching me talk 90 miles an hour and draw and do one of my favorite things. So I'm really, really happy to be here. If you guys are artists and things like that, I'm hoping that you guys are getting something from it. If not, I know I'm one of those types of people that I absolutely love to watch other people create. I don't know what it is. It's like my favorite pastime. I used to watch all kinds of like time lapse videos and things like that because I love a good time lapse. So I hope that you guys are enjoying it. Now, if you like a stream with a little less talk, right, just more vibes and creativity, please check out my Bring Your Own Project, BYOP. Bring Your Own Project, which streams in the middle of the week. I still have not quite landed on a day yet, so it'll be either Wednesday or Thursday, because I think that is a good balance for me, good, great timing and things like that for me. So Wednesday or Thursday, it'll be BYOP, and I would love to see and hear about the things that you are working on. So you're welcome to interact with me in the chat. I won't be talking, but I will be working. I am available to answer any questions during that time. I'm really available to answer any questions during this time as well. But again, if you like a little less explanation and just more painting and vibes, that is the live stream for you. I tried it out 2 weeks ago, I believe, and I really, really enjoyed it. So it was something that I have done since. I just got to nail down a date. Just have to sort of see like what the best day is. This last Thursday was a great one. I got quite a lot done on the face. One of the things that's interesting to me is that as I create, things will always look really rough. It really will. And then something will happen. You sort of push it to a place, and all of a sudden it looks like it's supposed to, right? So those live streams is a great way to sort of watch that process happen, because I'm able to create without sort of interrupting myself and explaining what I'm doing, which I will do right now. What I just did was just sort of added some shadow underneath her flounce to give it a little bit more dimension. And as we create details within the flounce, all of that will make more sense as well. We're just sort of foreshadowing things, right? But as I work on through the week, I'm able to sort of work and, just vibe, chill, listen to some good calming music as I create and work on one of my favorite things. Now, the thing about those live streams, though, is that they will not always be Cosmic Gateways Tarot, right? It's been Cosmic Gateways Tarot for the last couple of weeks, because last week we live stream didn't work out. So I had some technical difficulties. So we just sort of made up what I was going to do then. But I'll also do some graphic design work in that. For instance, I have mentioned my first book that I published in 2021, What the Bleeper Shadows. I am preparing to republish or relaunch a second edition to that. And in addition to the main workbook, and you guys can check that out on my website if you want to check out like the first edition. But in addition to sort of the main workbook, I want to create a guided journal for that. So to be sort of the information and then a guided journal, so that you can use the information and work through the shadow work, which is, because it's a shadow work book, work through the shadow work as you read, right? So it'll have prompts in it. And I use prompts loosely, so I don't mean AI, but it'll have journal prompts to sort of help the reader through their journey through shadow work. And so I have that to work on, and I would love to share some of the process of that, or at least stream while I work on that, because I'm going to be working on it anyway. So there'll be different projects and things like that, and as I have projects for clients, I'll share that process as well. So there'll be quite a little more variety on that particular live stream. It'll be a lot of Cosmic Gateways Tarot, don't get me wrong, because the goal is to get this bad boy done and published and out to you guys and to the readers. But until then, we'll sort of mix and match things like that throughout the week. I also have some other illustration projects that I have in mind. For instance, as I was doing my artist reaction. So if you guys have not had the opportunity to look at that, I did a couple of live streams where I reacted to some of my old YouTube videos. In that, I have a couple of pieces that I want to recreate, right? And so I'll probably do that during that time as well. So you guys can kind of see me draw and work on other things and prepare files and, all of the things that we don't get the chance to talk about and don't get a chance to share as I work through my Sunday streams. So yeah, if you're interested in that, more behind the scenes looks at what I do as a graphic designer and illustrator, that will probably be the stream for you. Again, there won't be as much explanation because that is very much a just let's paint and chill, right? But it is there. So if you like that kind of thing, again, check those out Wednesdays or Thursdays. One of these days I'll have a nailed down day. So you guys can join me for that. So I think we're going to probably wrap it up here soon. I'm going to continue. You know what? Should I wrap it up? If you're watching this in the chat, I got a question for you. I see we have a couple viewers. Let me ask y'all a question, right? So I was going to say I'm going to wrap this up and I am going to probably continue to work on this off of live. However, because we have the music and things like that, and that's been the way that I've been streaming through the week, which we just got through talking about. Would you like to see me continue to work on this, and I just sort of put the music on and stop talking, or you guys just good with the talking and we stop? I'd love to know your opinion on that, because what I could do is I can actually continue to work, and then I'll just turn on the music and work and vibe and that kind of thing until I get tired, and then I'll close out the stream. If that's something you're interested in, maybe we'll do that one day. You guys let me know. What am I looking for? Mom's apron. I am going to tidy this up really quickly. I would love to know that. And if you've had an opportunity to check out those bring your own project streams, how do you like them? Right? Is the music nice and relaxing for you? If not, do you want to hear something else? Would you be interested in hearing sort of different types of music throughout the week as you work? Let me know that as well. I would love to hear your opinion on it. And if you had an opportunity to see the art school video, tell me how you like that. I'm really curious. That was something that was on my mind to do. Threads be inspiring me. I've seen quite a few people who are considering, again, going to art school and trying to determine whether or not it's going to be worth their investment, which is valid, right? Super valid, especially because there is the fear that AI is going to be sort of taking over creative jobs. My thing is, if you're passionate about what you do, and you are willing to learn and be patient with the process and sort of enjoy the process of creating, to me I feel like it's wholeheartedly worth the investment, and that's coming from someone who did not finish. Right. I did leave school with about 3 semesters left, so it wasn't just like I dropped out because I was tired, but it wasn't just like I dropped out prematurely. I was actually quite ready to go. Hey PL, thank you so much. PL says I enjoyed being on your bring your own project. It was very relaxing, so awesome. Thank you so much, PL. I'll keep doing those. I surely will, because I enjoy them and I get a lot done. It keeps me from being distracted, because typically what will happen is, as I'm working on my own, I'll work for like a few minutes and then I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on Instagram, right? Or I wonder what's going on this app and that app. And so I get distracted and sidetracked, or I get mom brain. That'll happen too, right? Where it's like, hey, mom, I'm hungry. And I'm like, okay, well, let me get up. I'm working. But I should probably, I'll come here for whatever it is that you need, just as an excuse not to work, right? So, I will do more of that. I think that sort of helps me hold myself accountable for the things that I need to do. And it kind of keeps me from procrastinating. It's just going to be a matter of me deciding what they do. Right. So I really, really appreciate you for watching that video. I thank you so much. What we'll do is we'll probably split this for tracks every now and then where we can do some variety. Because I had it in my mind to do like a bossa nova day. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of music. It's like think French cafe music, right? It's really, really nice. Maybe we have some southern sort of, but it all under the guys being like very relaxed, like chill. Because I'm listening to it, that's working. So that's very for me. All right, so what I'm doing is add to this because the sky is blue, right? We have skies here. We are going to be very probably going to add a little bit, right? So we don't necessarily want to not stand out. So we'll just do something like this. Not so bright. This sometimes you have to overcompensate for things, right? Now I do have an idea of adding some sort of bushes and ambiance and things like that to the background. Very much like our Queen of Wands. Matter of fact, that's pretty much what I'm modeling this image after. Because the Queen of Wands, and I'll show you her. Queen of Wands, who our grandmother figure is in this environment where she's sort of in this celebration, right? Very much like our Three of Cups. She's in this celebration, and behind her are some bushes, so that gives us some ambiance. She has some drummers and drum players in the scene with her. And I'll show you what it looks like. But what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the three of um, I'm looking at the not the Three of Cups. When I'm looking at the Queen of Wands, is I want to pay attention to sort of the bushes, right? So we have some bushes back here. I'll probably add those in, and I really like how I did the concrete, right? So I'm going to at some point mirror this. Now I did try earlier off of live to bring these elements in, but because of the way that they were painted in due to the scene and the composition, it didn't quite fit, right? But I do kind of remember how I did this. So I'll sort of take my memory into account and add these details into this scene as well. So it's like they're outside and they're having this celebration, and I want to have these, be somewhat related. All right, so I think we've gotten to a place. I think what I will do. PL says I'm breaking up. Great. So this is right on time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it. So I thank you so much, whether you're watching this live or the replay. I really appreciate you for being here. Check out our midweek streams. That'll be BYOP. Bring your own projects. I have not put them on social media. I just kind of do them, but I'll schedule them out just to sort of keep myself on track. So again, I appreciate you for being there. Do me a huge favor and hit that like button. If you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe and check out some of those other videos that I've put out this week. I think you guys will like them. And until next Sunday, have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. Peace.